So this has to do with the EFCC finally making an official statement as far as the issue of very dark man is concerned.
So my people, drama will never cease to happen in this country. Yes, so drama, this Nigerian government na drama. And EFCC, we're supposed to be body, where Nigerians supposed to respect. Now don't turn themselves to tools for politicians. They don't finally come out, accept, give official statement. This time around, we assume it's official. Unlike the one we then give last time with BBC Pidgin. We see the news with BBC Pidgin. We see the news with Vanguard newspaper. Now, since, imagine EFCC, a body, a respectable body, a body which is supposed to be respected in Nigeria, arrest somebody. Did I say arrest? No, be arrest. Adopted somebody, as in not just anybody, but very dark man. They arrest him, they adopted him, since they not give any information. The time when they take, they come out, they talk, say the news out there in the public domain where BBC Pidgin give na fake news. It don't reach them to talk, say, yes, Nigerians, now we arrest them. Now, they don't leave the very dark man there with them since on Friday till now. A lot of things have happened. Youth don't they protest. Many things don't happen. Yes, say for Benue State, they even had to burn down one of GTB Bank. We don't know how true it is, but we saw the news. The news is out there. So a lot of things have happened, all just because of the negligence of EFCC. Let me just drop the reactions from Channel TV for you guys to watch. And please help us to drop your honest opinion with us in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.
So this has to do with the EFCC finally making an official statement as far as the issue of very dark man is concerned, because they hadn't said anything. Rather, they were debunking the report that had come out earlier over his arrest, because we didn't know whether it was with them or not. But they said, yes, we arrested him for multiple, they call it alleged financial malfeasance. And they said they have a right to hold him, but they've given him administrative bail in that sense. So if he feels that, he leaves, but he will have his day in court. Anike Nonso Kingsley says, you guys are making him more popular. That was the very first statement. But guys, I think that I do not agree with how the EFCC has managed the issue of very dark man. I think it's poor communication. For whatever reason there is, they did. They arrested the guy for a couple of days. There was a furore. So is he with you? Is he not with you? And it was like the handlers of the EFCC, what do you call it now? The X page, where I just saw that like a joke. I think it was irresponsible of the EFCC to, rather than come out to say, we have arrested him, we will let the public know, or whatever statement it is, because people are just, you couldn't say anything about it because we're not even sure whether it's in their custody or not. Then the EFCC was rather said, everybody who posted that, why they arrested him, they were cancelling, saying, no, fake news. Why are you saying fake news? You should have just responded to what exactly is the truth, even if it's briefly. So I don't think EFCC failed in that regard. And I respect them for what they are trying to do with Yahoo boys and all of that. But I think, again, in my view, guys, this is good, but EFCC is busy majoring on the minor. The major, what is happening to Yaya Bello, the allegations, all the big politicians you have in your custody, those are the things Nigerians are interested in. This is an attachment. But all of this, people spraying Naira and you go and arrest them, all of this, I'm not saying they're not important, but there are major issues. So on two counts, I fault the EFCC. Their communication is horrible on this particular issue, and majoring on the minor is troublesome. Do your minors, but let's hear what's going on with the big boys. Okay, guys, you have the next one.
The part I really don't understand is the appropriate remand order was obtained in this regard, in that statement. So which court gave that remand order? When was the remand order gotten? When was he arraigned? Because on the one hand, there's talk about administrative bail, and then there's another talk about remand order. So is this order, was it given within the EFCC, by the EFCC, such that we have administrative bail, or it was given by a court? If it was, when was he arraigned? Did he get These are the questions that need answering. And yes, Jeffrey, you've raised that point. You can't close your eyes to questions about what happened and then open your eyes to the other reportage. That should have preceded any other thing you wanted to do, whether tag something fake news or otherwise. Let Nigerians know what is happening. You didn't have to wait till Monday. Come on, we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And can an individual really be detained for that long with, without recourse to being charged and arraigned in court? Those are the real issues. And Jeffrey, you talked about, them majoring on the minor. The actress whose daughter, had a wedding a week ago or so, also talked about being invited by the EFCC after she returned from a trip. Those are the real issues. Should we ask also about outstanding cases of former governors who were, tried by the EFCC, but which cases have not really made a headway in the last couple of years? Should we also ask the EFCC what's going to happen, with the case of the former governor of Delta State, particularly, after the announcement of the defection? We are going to follow up on that case as well. So those are the real issues, that we should follow up on. Those are the real issues that we should see the EFCC, flexing its muscle on. Nobody is saying that anyone shouldn't be, arrested and tried if there are real charges against them. But we should see the energy evenly distributed for all cases. But what are you saying about these issues?
I think we'll go to the next one that has to do with the videos. We understand that police brought dogs, right? To the two of the free, very dark man protests in Abuja.
And we saw them.
So we saw that protest, so we understand that the police also, according to people that were writing on X, that they brought, what do you call it now, dogs, okay, to that. This is very embarrassing. I think we've said enough on this particular matter. Whoever is handling the EFCC communication should be reprimanded. It's horrible. We may not have gotten here where people are protesting and all of that. It's X. We have very dark man in our custody, following whatever grammar. One sentence, and everybody goes to sleep. Yeah. All this will not be necessary.
Okay,
they're using this to distract us from bigger issues.
Points now. Cryptopia says, be safe and careful out there. Watch out for bad players that might want to sabotage the peaceful protests.
That seems to be a burning issue. A lot of bank customers are seem not to be happy with some banks at this time. Let's find out, are you afraid of your fund? Is your fund secured? Are you happy with treatment given to you by banks in Nigeria? And we have the national president of the Association of Senior Staff of Banks, Insurance and Financial Institutions right here in the studio, Mr. Olusoji Oluwole. Mr. Oluwole, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nene. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so some bank stocks weren't doing well yesterday, and one would just wonder, are customers really not happy? There was a protest by some youths, and you know what's going on around the banks and all of that. And sometimes you just want to ask if the banks are communicating enough with their customers, whether at times like this when sentiments are not all positive, or at times that seem to be neutral, or times when you hear complaints of reversal or incomplete transactions. Would you say banks are communicating enough with their customers?
Yes, I will say that banks are doing that quite often. Banks usually send out messages to their customers, advising them on how to secure their accounts, especially at this time where a lot of electronic transactions are going on. Of course, we know how vulnerable people can be in this era of digitization. So banks actually communicate a lot. And beyond safeguarding funds, banks also communicate where they notice one or two things that may be off relating to a particular transaction, or where the banks themselves have issues. They communicate as well, because it's one of the requirements from the regulator that whenever there's a downtime, whenever there's an issue, banks should communicate. I personally know that I receive messages telling me that there'll be some kind of downtime, or there are issues, routine maintenance and all those things. They tell you the time frame, and if it exceeds that time, they also come back to inform you.
But in the area of, for instance, I feel that my account has been compromised. It doesn't seem like the bank can really help. I have a personal experience. For instance, I sent money twice. I sent money to somebody, a wrong person, and I reached out to my bank to say, oh, this wasn't the wrong person. Can you help me? And they just leave you to yourself. And then in some cases where a phone has been stolen or something, it doesn't seem like the banks can help or will help, in such situations.
Yeah, so I'll take the second one first. Banks are only able to know a problem and resolve it if they're informed in a timely manner. So basically, once there's a complaint, like the example you gave, a stolen phone, or you feel that your details have been compromised, you notify them. Of course, they will ask questions to ensure that they're actually dealing with the right person. And once that happens, the banks immediately place restrictions on that account. That is what is expected, and that is what usually happens to be able to safeguard those customers. But if they do not have information, there is no way that they will know that there has been some kind of...
Because the fund was moved from one bank account to another. They cannot help in that because they also have, we have BVNs and all kinds of security.
Yeah,
now.
so in terms of that, yes, they go on trying to follow the money.
Do they really? It doesn't look like they do.
Oh, yes, we do actually. So in the case of fraud, immediately once your own bank is notified, they notify the other bank. But the experience that we've had is that these fraudsters usually, within minutes, they move from bank A to bank B, from bank B to bank C. It goes on and on and on. It's almost like a vicious circle. But as much as possible, the banks are able to recover what it is that they can recover. Now, taking it back to the first one that you mentioned, where you do a wrong transfer. Yes, once your bank is notified, they notify the other bank. But then there are also processes to it, because it is your word against the other customer's word. You have transferred money. Yes, you may have transferred wrongly. The other customer needs to be notified because that person has to give consent before fund is sent back. And that is on the condition that the person has not utilized the fund. If the person has utilized the fund, then another journey starts from there. Trying to get that person to refund. Sometimes it's a tedious process, even for the banks, getting the customer to return fund and getting it back. But in cases where the other person clearly admits that the fund does not belong to them, then they do send the money back. Now, the regulators have also understood those challenges, and that's where the BVN thing comes in, because BVN has helped a lot. Where it has been established that that person, that customer who received the fund, either erroneously or took it fraudulently, once it is established, there is a process of watchlisting the person's BVN. And once you watchlist the person's BVN, it simply means that the person cannot operate a bank account anywhere in Nigeria. If you have accounts anywhere, they will be restricted. If you want to open an account, you will not be able to open an account. And of course, you cannot have more than one BVN because your BVN is tied to your biometrics and other data that are personal to you.
So what about these talks of people's accounts being compromised, being used, without the notification or attention of the owners? How true is it?
Yes, it does happen. The question is, how did they happen? And, I spoke earlier on about this era of digitization. We find out that a lot of people actually get compromised without them knowing. Some out of ignorance, some out of greed. The system has put in minimum requirements for security. So the three basic ones are who you are, what you know, and what you have. So who you are is your name. Basically the username. It could be your full name, it could be your account number. Anybody can know that. The second is what you know. It's your password. Nobody else knows it. You're not supposed to share it. The third is what you have, which is like a one-time password or a PIN that comes from a device that is held by you and no other person. Right. But what we have found is that a lot of people, like I said, out of ignorance, probably, you go to social media, you see something is being sold at a ridiculously cheap price and all that, and then you go on, you click on the link, and it keeps asking you for your card number, asks you for this, asks you for that. In the process of putting in that information, you feel you are doing a genuine transaction, but what you're actually doing is that you are pushing your information to a third party at the back end, who is simply taking it. And while you think you are doing that transaction, they're actually moving your funds out of there. Again, I spoke about greed. There are people who are told that they have won a lottery somewhere, and this is something that has happened over the decades. It's not something new. I've had that experience of somebody calling that we were delaying him from getting a cash prize that had been given to him by a certain telco. And my immediate question to him was, do you use that line? Because I saw the line he used to call me. It definitely was not that telco. He said, no, he doesn't have the line. I said, so why would that company give you money that you didn't work for? Well, he found it difficult to understand that bit of it. And immediately, actually went back and said, the card should be blacklisted. Because if that card is not blacklisted and something happens, that customer comes back to the bank and says that we took his money. So we continue to educate customers on securing themselves, on knowing genuine sites, on being careful when they are invited by people that they do not know to give information. Also, we find a lot of people, when you hear that phones are stolen, bags are stolen and all that stuff, phones are not secure, you open diaries inside the bags, and you find all the details of that person written out there, probably because they feel that they may forget. But what they've invariably done is that they have put their personal details out there in public forum. Of course, they are the ones who also use they use details that can easily be guessed. Birth years, birth dates. Some even just use 0000. And those are the things that people will test first to see if they can actually be compromised. Because truth is that using an OTP or a password, for instance, or a PIN, you have 1,000 different PINs that you can use. So why go using something that anybody can guess?
So that you remember easily.
Exactly.
Well, what about, how do you react to this notion that sometimes even the bank staff are compromised and are involved in some of this compromised transactions that lead to loss of funds?
It's not impossible. They exist. Just like you will find in any environment, any business environment, there will always be that one or two people who, either due to pressure or due to preconceived notions, go in there and carry out nefarious activities against the customers. But we cannot use those ones to judge an entire industry. Like I said, in every industry, you will always find one or two of them like that. Organizations go through stringent measures in the process of employing, in checking backgrounds and all those things. But there's still a limit to what you can get. Like for somebody who is under pressure, the person may have come into the institution without any thought of committing any kind of fraud, but falls under pressure, rent, family, friends, peer pressure and all those things. Or may have been induced by something that looks very, very attractive. So yes, they do occur. And in such cases, organizations do not waste time once they're able to get them, because all these things also have audit trails. And investigations really, really go on in getting them. And once they are gotten, they are arrested, they are prosecuted. And we found cases where a lot of them have been jailed. And not only have they been jailed, they are dismissed and they are blacklisted, so they can never ever work in a financial institution.
What's the process for a customer who feels that their accounts were compromised? Maybe it's through no fault of theirs. What's the process to...
Well, every institution is expected to have a customer care line, a customer care center that runs 24 hours a day, every day of the year. So you could either send an email you could send, you could do a phone call. There are various means of getting to them, or you walk into a branch and it is taken on from there.
There's also the CBN routes. I know there was a
So you need to exhaust the bank side, and where you feel that you have not gotten the kind of response that you require, or where there has not been any response within a particular number of days, then you can now take it to the CBN Consumer Protection Unit.
So you talked about the purchasing online. That's becoming really common now. What are some of the tips you could give, to look out for to protect your card, your fund, when purchasing online?
The first really is that outside the very common ones that we know, the common sites that we usually shop in and we already have saved, if you are being introduced...
But sometimes those sites could be cloned. So you also have to...
That's why I said that you already have saved. So you know that you've shopped there and you are just going there to what you have saved. The first is to check on the top of where you type in the address, the URL, is to see that at the point of payment, the site is secured. So when we talk about security, at the beginning, a lot of times what you will just see is HTTP. Seeing HTTP is not a secure site, but where you find HTTPS, and usually beside it you are going to find the image of a locked padlock beside it. Once that padlock is open, it simply means that that site is not secure. The second is that if you have received an invitation by mail, one of the things to do is to click on the name of the sender of that name to see that there is no other name embedded behind it. So I'll give an example. Someone received an email, supposedly, from a particular bank, right? Telling the person that, oh, we know that you have applied for this. To complete it, click on this. And the person went on and clicked. And everything that a bank will normally ask for was there. So the person continued to fill. Then he got to the point of asking for card number. He put in his card number. And then the next thing was card expiry date. And that was when the person went cautious and then went back there and clicked on the name on the sender. At that time, it was showing the name of the bank, and clicked on it and found another name behind it. Because today, if you set up an email address, you could set it in such a way that the sender's name could be a nickname, it could be a pseudonym, it could be anything rather than your name. But behind it, the original owner of that account will show. And that was how that person found out that it was actually being defrauded. Now, what had happened was that those fraudsters would have sent out multiple of those mails, knowing that at least one or two people would actually have requested for that service, and they would have fallen victim to that. But a lot of people do not know, and that's why banks keep on sending messages that we will never ask you for your personal details. We will never ask you to send this. All we will ask you is what your problem is. Worst case scenario, probably your account number, which will not be asked in public space anyway. But that is the worst they will ask, because after that they will be able to get every other information that is required.
All right, so I guess we have to stay cautious and keep giving all of this information. But just before we let you go, at a time like this, when it does seem like sentiments are not so positive concerning the banks, what should the banks be doing to appease to customers, to win back the love and all of? Because I hear some people are actually from some banks. What should they be doing?
Well, banks will continue to campaign and sensitize customers. They do that a lot, and in the past it was just simply using emails and text messages. Today there are various forms of social media that can be used, and the banks continue to do that regularly. But as staff of banks, we also owe that duty to go around to educate people, because I found myself in different fora where these things come up. It even goes beyond the securing of funds, coming to charges, coming to this, coming to that. And I try as much as possible to sit them down and explain to them for them to understand each area where they have shown concern. Because what we find a lot of times, the social media trial that goes on without clear understanding. But the second aspect of it is that we also appeal to our customers who understand these processes to educate those who do not really understand, because it's not just the fight for the institutions themselves. We need to also fight and secure ourselves, because like I always tell people, fraudsters have their training school. They're in school every day. They are 5-10 steps ahead of everybody, because the moment you start, they are also thinking. Because what you are going to find is that a lot of people who walk around them are also techie people. They are developers. So they understand the entire process. They've gone to school, they've learned this thing. The only difference is that they've decided to use it the wrong way.